Hey everyone, welcome back to the Kick-Ass Life podcast with myself and Coach Tara Garrison. Today we're going to talk about happiness. It's a broad topic, but Tara and I have interviewed a couple of people on this topic. We've read many books on it, and we think especially right now this is an important thing because it's within your control. And so that's the important thing to start off at. And, as well to listen to both of our interviews with Rob Mack. M-A-C-K. Both Tara and I have interviewed her on Inside Out Health and also Primal Blueprint Podcast. They're both very different. They're both amazing. And Rob is a happiness researcher and has a degree in a Master's of Applied Positive Psychology, very rare degree. So very interesting episodes that just came out recently, like last week. And where do you want to start with this? One of the things I was thinking of, there's so many elements to this, but I guess the bottom line is that happiness is the foundation to everything else. And aside from that, you have to generate it yourself. Mm-hmm. Studies and everything have shown you cannot. Even ancient Greeks, Epictetus, do not put your happiness on external sources. So it's the foundation by which kind of everything in our life flows out. And that's why it's important to get happy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So two topics. One is looking for happiness from external sources, like other people to make us happy, because that's a whole thing we can delve into. But the other thing is delaying happiness. That's where it goes for all of us achievers out there. Like I am every little personality test I've ever done. It's like achiever, achiever, achiever. I know that about myself. Right. And so actually the book, The Happiness Advantage by Shawn Achor was really profound for me during a time that I was in the throes of achieverness, right? And when we're in that, it's like, I have to build my business and do this, and I got to grind and I got to hustle. And happiness seems like a nice afterthought, if I can, yeah, sure. I'm happy enough, right? It's this afterthought. It's not a necessity is what it feels like when you're in the heat of trying to achieve something new. But there's also the sad part about it is the mentality that I was in was, but I'm doing all this so I can be happy, right? And Shawn Achor's book, The Happiness Advantage, and also Rob Mack has a book called Happiness from the Inside Out. So jumping into these things, what's cool about these guys that have actual degrees in positive psychology is there's research to back it up. It's not like just somebody giving you fluff saying like, hey, it's good to be happy all along the way. It's like, no, you want some numbers. You want to see how your longevity, your productivity, your entire life can increase from happiness. Okay, well, here's some numbers for you, and that's what it's kind of like, prove it. Shawn Achor said that when he first started presenting this research and speaking to people, he could see like the glazed eyes on their faces when he's like, I'm going to talk to you about happiness today. And they're like, oh my gosh, but then he could see it switch over the course of the discussion as he's giving them actual data and numbers and research to show what a productivity hack, what a life hack happiness is. So,
let's get into a little bit of that research. So one of the interesting studies that they did at Princeton found that there was a correlation between happiness and wealth to a point of about $75,000 a year. So meaning when people make more than $75,000 a year, their happiness doesn't increase, but the lower their income may be. So people, if you know what I mean, yes, you might want to get to a level from 50 to 75, but think about it. People are at 75, 90, 100, and they're still not happy, thinking that more money is going to make them happy, and that is not what the research shows.
Yeah, Shawn Achor shared that when people are positive, the brain has triple the creativity, backed by science, 31% higher levels of productivity, 23% fewer fatigue-related symptoms, and 37% higher levels of sales. Those all result in higher profit, lower burnout, less turnover in your business. So he starts it right out of the gate. Like if you're a business owner too, if anybody's listening, like how happy are your employees? Or if you're a parent, how happy are your kids? Or if you're a friend or a family member, how happy are the people around you? Because that is important to understand the success of whatever organization or culture that we're in. So I love that he has numbers to back it up.
And also there were some studies too that showed that so people who earned their wealth were reportedly happier than people who inherited it or married into it. Mm-hmm. Interesting factor that we already talked about it. You mentioned that. The reward and the triumph of accomplishing a thing and getting and earning the money is so much more satisfying to our overall happiness. And then on the other note too, there was an interesting thing where they said, when you're talking about deca millionaires, so 10 million plus, they were saying that, they might have showed to be a little bit happier than the people of 1 or 2 million. But basically, when you're at a certain level of multimillionaire, you can buy happiness through giving it away, that is what makes them happy, is being able to give away money, help other people, give to causes and things. And isn't that such a thing? Like we've always thought, everyone's thought about winning the lottery, and part of the thought is how much fun it would be to help people or donate to your favorite charity or buy your mom a house, or right, like all those things. And so in the giving away of it, so that has a lot to do too with how we think about gratitude, lack, and all that kind of stuff as well.
Yeah, in Sean Akers' book, he mentions that Aristotle had a concept called eudaimonia, and that's that basically saying that happiness isn't all sunshine and roses all the time. It's like we think happiness means I'm just gonna like be content and be happy, but it's more than that. True happiness is what we experience striving after our potential. That's true happiness. When we are striving after our potential, we feel happy. Now, there's going to be bumps in the road. There's going to be difficult moments. But I know both you and I, we just shared before we started recording all these amazing miracles that are happening in our life as we strive after our potential. And that's true happiness. Like, I don't know about you, but have you ever gone on a vacation and you've got like this amazing idea built up in your mind that this is just going to be the most fun, happy experience you've ever had? And then when you're actually in it, it's like not really that great. It's like, because we're looking, and that brings us back to that.
We're looking for that to make us happy versus already being happy going into the vacation.
Yeah, and that goes back to Rob Mack's principle of happiness from the inside out. Like, it has to come from the inside. And when we're striving after our potential, when you find your soul's purpose and you're continuously striving after that, there's no other kind of happiness that I've ever experienced in my life. Like, this is the kind of happiness that when your alarm goes off, you're like, yeah, baby. Like, this is, like, it's finally made me want to go to bed at night because I can't wait for
Can't wait to wake up. I know. I think that's why I like to go bed early, because I'm like, I can't wait because I just went tomorrow.
Because I get to do this all over again, and what's going to happen next, right? So it all does come from the inside out. Also,
yeah, it's like you have to generate it before you can generate it.
Yeah, exactly.
It sounds so half-ass backwards, but it's true.
We want to delay it. You know, we think like, I'll do these things, I'll suffer now so I can be happy later, right? It's kind of like the principle of like all life is suffering, and when I die, then it's going to be this beautiful bliss in heaven. And it's like, what about now? Why don't you make now heaven? How about that? What would that look like? What would need to shift in your life in order to make that happen? Yeah. And when we do, like Sean's book, this book was really life-changing for me because I tested it. I was like, okay, I'm hearing you, because one of the principles that he talks about is social investment, bringing happiness. And when we are, especially for people who are high achievers, we think, okay, I need to retreat. I need to go be by myself, and I need to get a bunch of shit done. I need all the time to myself, and I'm building. I'm super guilty of this. This is definitely like my default mode, is like push everyone out, push everyone away so I can get more shit done. And so I was like, okay, let me try it out. So I started intentionally, those moments come where somebody's like, hey, do you want to go? And I'm like, nope. You know, and I'm not saying there's not value in that. Sometimes you do have to choose yourself and watch over your own stress levels, because if you keep saying yes to everything, like, you're going to get really stressed. But I was like, nope, I need to prioritize social engagements. And I found only positive results. Everything started going up. Plus, not to mention, when you're on social media, when you're happy, it comes off. You can tell. You can tell when people are happy. I think that's the reason, like Rob Mack's interview, like I was like on the edge of my seat the whole time. I'm like, I love talking to you. When you're a happy person, people love being around you. What is that going to do for your business, for your relationships, your friendships, your whole life? Right? Because you become this.
And by the way, when people see Rob Mack's a great example. So when people see Rob Mack, what you're going to see is like a GQ model. Okay, you see a GQ model, yeah. And you see someone who's smart and bright, they're beautiful, and you go, well, like, their life's been great. Well, you know what? He used to be suicidal, and he didn't think highly of himself. So just because you're born into a shell of a visual, and we think, oh, they have it easy because they have an easier happiness, like their course and path to happiness is so much easier because pretty people get treated better. All that stuff's true, but that's not what's going on the inside. Mm-hmm. So I want to point that out about Rob, because people are going to see him and they're going to go, oh, well, look at this guy. He just rolled off of a magazine, and everyone thinks that those people have a better advantage at this, but that's not the case.
Yeah. So we can rewire our brains for happiness, yes. Right? Acor calls this a positive Tetris effect, right? So you can train, of course there's genetics involved, right? Like I do a lot of stuff with neurochemistry and my coaching. So I love it. I am super obsessed with neurochemicals because they have so much effect on how we show up each day. If you're low in dopamine and serotonin, you're not going to show up in your potential every day. That's part of the reason.
By the way, I had zero serotonin at one point, and I'm here to tell you that that's true. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like it's almost like you're trapped in a certain way is kind of what it feels like. We've all had moments like that. Think of a brief moment where maybe you stayed up all night in college or something, and then you had to like go perform the next day and you felt dead inside. You're like, there's no way I could ever love or be happy, or, your serotonin is just completely shot. So there is a neurochemical component to it, but that can be changed. Your genetic wiring, your DNA can change, and it can change through thought. So doing things like gratitude, having a consistent gratitude practice and putting into practice these things that bring happiness, rewiring your brain for it, you can get there. Now, of course, there's a physical component to these things too. If you're drinking all the time or, doing drugs or things that are manipulating your neurochemistry.
Cocaine will work for like a week, and then you might go down a slippery slope. Yeah. Those things are not going to actually get you there. Yeah.
Right. But like the deep stuff, because I know I went through a month-long gratitude practice where we actually used the reticular activator system, where I read every single day, I read a gratitude statement that was like 2 pages long to basically brainwash myself, is what I'm saying here, into gratitude, and looking for it every day and identifying and writing the feelings that I associated with it. Now, I'll give you an example. Last night, I'm so happy. I just finished filming 90 days of personal development. It has been a huge freaking project for my clients. And I had a moment right at the end. I was on day 88. I was like, and each video takes so long because it's like, it's got to have the right spirit to it. It's got to be like the right inflection. It's a beast of a project doing it. If anyone's done a lot of video work before, it's not as easy as it looks.
It's not.
To be on video. It's a ton of mental energy. Like, it can be very exhausting. And I was on day 88 and I was like, come on, girl. I kept like having all these little, like, you got this. Come on. You got this. 3 more. Come on. And then I realized I was kind of white knuckling it. And I just had this moment that has been wired into me from doing this gratitude practice where I was like, look what you get to do. Yeah. Look what you're doing. Look, you have clients that love this stuff. Their lives are being changed. You have this beautiful home with privacy right now where you can do it. You have all this camera and lighting equipment. You have a voice. You have a platform. Like, you're living your dream. Enjoy, and I think that kind of gratitude, if you know what happened, I mean, I wrote a post about gratitude right after it on my Instagram about how it's an instant stress reliever, because that's what happens. Yes. Like, I went from, oh man, okay, got to get this done, this is so stressful, too,
I get to do this. Oh my gosh,
I'm so happy right now. Yeah. So it can be trained.
Well, and I want to get back to a little bit of the how we're wired into this. While Mark Sisson's book Primal Connection is not all about happiness, there are some really interesting things. So basically, as a product of millions of years of evolutionary design, we're hardwired to feel good. And one of the things, I mean, our evolutionary ancestors, right? We ate, slept, touched, loved, hunted, played, right? We had a lot but we were also rewarded with the release of adapted feel-good hormones, and I'm reading directly from Mark's book here. And so genetically speaking, we are identical to those hunter-gatherers. It's probably why we have that reward of why it feels good when sun is on our skin. And there's actually a particular gene that makes it feel good when sun hits our skin, probably to influence us to get out into it. And then we get the reward of feeling happier and all of the things that happen in that process. So again, like, we're wired for this. We just have to foster the wiring. And the other part of Primal Connection that I really like is, aside from, of course, the vitamin D and neurotransmitters and what we know when you're talking about, is taking responsibility. We've already talked a little bit about this, but I think, the most uniquely human trait of our hunter-gatherer ancestors is that they acknowledged life's realities and cruelties, and they didn't sit around and wallow in victimhood. That is a modern luxury. Modern luxury. So nowadays, like, we have the luxury of self-despair, pity, all this kind of stuff. They didn't back then. We're not wired for that. We're really wired to move on. And some way along the way with human evolution, so societal stuff, we got trapped into this other game. So it really is like kind of going back to sort of like how you and I feel about ancestral nutrition and some of these things. Like, that's very valid there. So our ancestors didn't judge themselves as failures and sit there. If something didn't work or a camp blew up, they weren't sitting there crying about it. They moved on. They found their solution forward momentum. And so the solution to happiness is, how do you get it? Well, learn. You got to learn from people, right? Books like Happiness Advantage. There's another book on gratitude I want to mention that's lovely. I've listened to it 100 times probably. It's by Angeles Aaron, and I think her last name is Airren or something like that. Angelus Aaron. She just wrote a book called Gratitude, and what it's lovely is she's kind of got a kind of like a soothing grandma's voice, and she is telling these wonderful stories and fables throughout history that have to do with the topic of gratitude. And it's almost just like this lovely kind of meditational sort of audiobook, if you listen to it, that is really can really foster. The whole book is just that. So I love that. But again, like, so this victim mindset, you're unhappy. That's a victim mindset, and we've got to change it. I think you got to choose to be blessed. You have to choose to be thankful. Like you said, you took time out of your day to do a 30-day challenge, and I suggest that to everybody because I'm sure, as you saw, like after a certain amount of days, now you're on that roll. It's being grateful. Things are rolling into your life. We talked before this. We just told each other about a couple of awesome things that are going on. It's because we jumped into it.
Right. It's like, just like our bodies or our nutrition, like you're not born just knowing how to do it well. Even mindset stuff has to be taught and practiced, and we need education on it. We just talked about this I don't think I'm ever without a coach in some regard in my life, whether it's training or nutrition or mindset or something. I always have somebody like opening up the opportunity for me to evolve my thinking on something, right? You hit on something so important, and I think that is feeling our feelings. And I want to identify this in this, happiness, positive thing, because I 100% know from my own life experience that part of happiness is being able to feel feelings that are unpleasant to feel also. We have to allow ourselves to feel our feelings. I'm reading Untamed by Glennon Doyle right now.
Everyone loves that book. Everyone is raving about this book.
Every time I share some part of my story, somebody says, you should read Glennon Doyle's Untamed. So I'm like, okay, that has like ran from my hair girl to one of my coaches to friends. I'm like, okay. So I'm reading it. It's great. She's a wonderful writer. But one of the things that she shares is when she was going through her recovery from alcoholism. And she was so embarrassed, and she's like 6 weeks into this journey of getting out of being an alcoholic and numbing all her feelings. And this lady comes up to her and basically says like, hey, I totally remember being where you were at. This is at her AA meeting. And she's like, one thing that I learned in this journey is that feelings are for feeling. And Glennon Doyle says, as she wraps this up, I never realized that feelings were for feeling. I thought feelings were only for feeling happy and good and positive and lucky and all the positive feelings. But when we're unwilling to feel our negative feelings all the way, we get trapped in denial and they never go away. I call
denial. Bingo.
Denial. I call them the toddler behind the baby gate. Okay? Like, you got a toddler behind a baby gate and you keep ignoring it, guess what it's going to do? It's going to get louder, and it's going to throw a bigger tantrum, and it's never going to stop. It's going to try and try and try to get your attention when you could have just stopped for like 30 seconds of whatever you were doing and got down face level and said, hey, what's going on? I drew a butterfly.
Right.
Okay, cool. Move on. But we won't do right. But we won't do that with our feelings if we'll just stop and kneel down for a second and be like, what am I freaking feeling? And sometimes it sucks. It's like, dude, you know what?
But those sucky feelings lead to us, again, like you said, going out of denial and going, all right, something's here. I need to fix.
And getting happy again. Yeah, it's like, okay.
It's the contrast. We can't be happy without some kind of contrast.
Right.
If everything went everyone's way and was perfect all the time, you'd be happy. But again, sometimes there's some nice contrasting things that you'd either have to see. Doesn't mean bad things need to happen to you in order for you to be happy. But there's a balance. There's the opposite of that.
And it brings you happiness in the long run because it gets you into proactive mode. So, for example, let's say my feeling is I'm ignoring my kids too much. I'm too focused on business. That is a common feeling that I'll get sometimes, right? So when that comes in, I can either say like, no, I don't. No, they're fine. Like they're good. Like, and I can deny that feeling, or I can be like, yeah, that's going on. Okay. What am I going to do to change it? Nope, you're going to close all this stuff up and you're going to go, and then I can become happy again. But if I deny that feeling, it'll just keep coming and coming and coming. So acknowledging our unpleasant feelings is a pathway to happiness. The difference I'd like to talk about, though, is how do you get out of it? this is where victim mindset comes in, because when you're in a victim mindset, when you're a victim about it, you stay in that place. You beat yourself up. You're like, and then you don't take action. So I could just sit there and be like, yeah, it's so hard being a mom entrepreneur and being a single mom. Like, yeah, I know, like I'm failing. And but I could just sit there in that, or I can feel it and be like, dude, I don't like the way that feels. Okay, let's go. Let's jump out of that. What do I need to change? What do I need to do? And that's personal responsibility. That's taking accountability for those feelings that are coming up. That's honoring, we have negative emotions for a reason. They're feedback for us. It's feedback. So when we take a real honest look at them, then we can be happier, faster, if we'll just accept those feelings.
It's really the authentic part of yourself trying to break out of the grave and
right.
get in your face. I had a really interesting, the Nordic people are the happiest people in the world. This is the studies they've all done. The Nordic countries are always the happiest. Now, they have a different quality of life. They don't have to worry about some of the things we have to worry about. They don't have to worry about healthcare, right? They don't have to, and they're 90% of Danes are happy to pay their taxes, which is exact opposite of our country, right? We're like, freaking taxes. We're trying to get out of it. They're happy because they know it leads to a better quality of life. But one thing about the Danes is that they have, and it's really built into their culture. It's not that we can totally mimic it. But from one of the authors that's a happiness research, the founder of the Happiness Research Institute in Denmark, Mike Viking, I interviewed him on the show, and he had some really he's written several books about this. So the Danes have a concept called HygGE, which is HygGE. And it can be translated in our culture to cozy, like a sense of coziness. But it's different than just candles and stuff. So HygGE would be people hanging out with each other, candlelight, cozy, but they wouldn't all be on their phones. They wouldn't all be, it would be real connecting. They value this. This is really a part of their culture. And that's why people at all incomes, their social mobility is really great. Like usually the studies have shown if you grow up in a very poor society, then you might end up being part of that group too, right? And the American dream is really alive in Denmark because they have things that are really social mobility upward. And so people are happy despite their levels of incomes in that country, which is an interesting thing. But a couple of the interesting tangents about this is that the art of making memories and how happiness is related to this. So we have a choice of recalling experiences in our past. And they found that some of the things that really generate a sense of nostalgia, that memories and happiness are equated with nostalgic views of the past, right? A positive tinge. And that in part, so not only to create more memories, but an example could be, for example, they show when they interview like 80-year-olds, 90-year-olds, and they say, what are the happiest times in your life? The age range is usually between 15 and 30, because in that time we have a lot of firsts, right? Your first kiss, your first this, your first job, right? So there's a lot of firsts, and they're very memorable. And so on that note, trying to make some more firsts, trying to do things that are interesting. And even if that's you're with your children and you're sitting down and you're all having a wonderful dinner and a wonderful moment. There's a story about one of the people he interviewed who was a Polish woman, and she contacted him from Poland and said, I read your book, and my happiest memory that I can remember from childhood is me, my mother cooking the dish, we're all laughing, we're having a great time. And the mother said something like, now, I hope you remember this moment. Remember this moment. Now, you can't keep throwing that in everyone's face every time you have dinner. But those are some things even a parent or other people can do. Being more present in the moment. Being in a moment and going, the smells, right? Andy Warhol had an interesting thing about creating memories and the nostalgia, which is he would only use a cologne or a perfume for 3 months at a time so that he could go back and be like, let's go back to the summer of '89 and choose that scent and generate the memory, the nostalgic memory of that. So I thought that was an interesting thing too. Someone switching up even their scents to associate to time. But so creating memories is a part of kind of pulling this happiness along in your life and for your children. And I thought that was an interesting that's how it's equated in the research that he did. They also did research where they found that like people in New York, they don't fucking smile. They don't smile. They are not, and we all kind of go, all right, not totally shocked on that. Same in London. But that is one thing they have also studied. If you are miserable and you smile or you look at a picture of like your niece who you love as a baby, you can't help but like smile. And they've noticed that when you do it, even if you force it, if you give it a time, you're going to actually feel the feeling of whatever facial expression that is. So there's so many little areas to this, but I love this, like creating memories. And if that means once a year you go somewhere different for a new experience that you can, or if you can document it in some way, you know, like how often are we just taking pictures of the thing and we're not enjoying the actual top of the mountain we just got to? So, you know, just attention to present moment, but in all the senses. You know what I mean? Like a smell could bring back like a childhood memory of something my mom cooked, right? Or a smell of a time or Hawaii. And so when we go back to kind of relive some of these lovely experiences of our life, it's important to draw on all the five senses. And I just love that. And I love the culture there. And again, they have a lot of things. They pay so much more taxes. They get so much more. Okay. But they have a very happy society, and it's really about connecting with one another, which is important. We also need to feel valued by a tribe or at least one person, even back to primal connection, right? So these are the things that do affect happiness, friendships and all this stuff. So just kind of wanted to throw out some of that stuff. And if anyone's interested, Mike Viking, and it's Meik, last name Viking, did a podcast with him that's great, but also he's written several books on like the art of creating memories and lovely like coffee table books that are just so soothing. And he's done so much interesting research all over the world on happiness. So
I love it. And I'm hearing a few things. One is the biggest thing I'm hearing is connection, right? Real, true connection. Because one thing that I have learned as a parent is if you want to have the realest of real connections with your kids, you sit down on a couch or on the floor and you have nothing planned. Nothing. That is, for me, that is the truest connection that will ever happen, because now I'm saying, here I am. I'm 100% open and present with you. What do you want to connect on me with? When I try to sit there and force it, and it's like, okay, we're going to do this, and this is going to be fun, and we're going to do that, and that's going to be fun. It just gets in the way, right? I mean, it might be fun, but only if that true connection, that heart connection is there. You hit on something else too, and that is being completely present with one thing, right? And Sean Aker talked about this too, that getting control of the small stuff in our lives and learning how to control impulsiveness and do things one at a time. Oh my gosh, that's one of the greatest things that we can train ourselves to do. I don't know about you, but for me, like observing these patterns of, why do I need to take my phone with me across the house? Why am I carrying this right now? Like, I'm in the middle of walking. Why do I need to check my phone right now? What am I doing? It's this impulsiveness, you know, and I think that for me,
that's what Rob touched on too in a podcast. Sorry to interrupt, but on that same note, I'm going to let it continue, is the, so like you're mopping or you're doing some bullshit you don't want to do that no one finds fun in, but to try to find that in there. Like instead of like, oh, I'm just going to get this shit done, like that mindset of I'm already in the future when this is over.
Right.
There's an opportunity there in the mopping of like, I'm glad I have a mop. I'm glad I have floors. I'm glad whatever it is, there is an opportunity there to be present or think about something else versus like, let me just get this over with. And
right. And it actually, that mindset, like it'll affect your eating too. If you're like the kind of person that always needs more, your eating will be like that too, because you don't have the gratitude really truly there
for the present moment of eating
you just received. What's that?
Like for the present moment of eating. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. You will feel, I tell my clients this, I'm like, I don't care how this sounds. I'm like, do a prayer, like whatever that is for you, like it can be to yourself. I don't know, but whatever that is for you, do a prayer at the end of your meal. Like, oh my gosh, that was so amazing. Even if it was something that isn't in alignment with your perfect nutrition plan, maybe it was chocolate cake. If you can just say, oh my gosh, that was amazing, I promise you will feel more full and satisfied. And I've learned that if you want to really develop this skill in yourself, you just have to do a consistent meditation practice. And I've watched myself, my little achiever butt, my little get shit doneer personality, like I watch and observe that in myself all the time. And I've been able to gain that through meditation. But even meditation, like I'll notice that when I'm not on point as much, I'm like glancing over at my timer to see if meditation's almost over. And I'm like, no. We're not going to look at the timer.
Do you just do straight meditation where you're just kind of trying to clear your thoughts? And then how long do you set your timer for usually?
Me, 10 minutes. That's all I do. That's all I have my clients do. That's what research has shown people will actually comply with long term.
Yeah, 5 to 10 minutes. Because it's not so short
that you don't get anything out of it, but it's not so long that it's so daunting you won't do it, right?
Yeah.
So props to the 2 hour a day people out there. Like, that's goals. That's amazing. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. So that's what I do. And I've still been able to hone. I'd say the biggest thing to me is, one, learning how to let things go. the impulses, right? Learning how an impulse comes up and I can let it go, and training that. And also just having that moment that I'm connecting with divinity, higher source, saying, hey, the gates are open over here. Here's a couple of willing hands if anything can happen through them, And so having that every day, yeah, it's life changing. So if you want to be more learn the skill of being more present, that helps. And also, if you have kids in your life in any way, or an animal too, dogs can be this way too, just get on their level for like 10 minutes, maybe set a timer for 10 minutes, just like that. And just get on their level and be like them. And you will be like, respect. You are a presence master, animals and children. So they can be wonderful teachers to us that way.
Yeah, that's so great. I was also thinking too, and I've said it before, which is, if you want to, and this is how I did it. I was like, okay, if I want to be happy, well, if I started with, manifestation, law of attraction, which leads into mindset and how to do that. And I thought, all right, because I was just kind of going along, but I thought like, I did have feelings of like, what is this all for? Like, this is fucking, shit, man, like not in control. Not that I had any power in creating my reality. And even though we talked about this on previous episodes, just this idea that if you want to become like an expert in something, or you want to become happy, you got to go read and listen to all the motherfuckers that are out there that have written books on this, right? That have done it. I love Lisa Nichols. She's a rags to riches story from The Secret, who I interviewed. She was on food stamps as a single mom. She's a multi-million-dollar motivational speaker. There's nothing she can't do. And I mentioned Justin Perry before. Again,
what's her name?
Lisa Nichols. She's one of the speakers from the movie and The Secret, and motivatethemasses.com is her website. But her story is great because she literally was like victim of all victims, welfare, food stamps, a kid, Compton, LA, like a lot of at a disadvantage as a whole of the society, and rose up. Same with Justin Perry, who was working on an assembly line, no education, thought he couldn't do anything, started doing law of attraction. Family thought he was crazy and blasphemous against God. And then now he's living in like an 8,000 square foot mansion with 2 boats. So, and that was all from mindset. And again, because, these people went and were like, well, who's out there who's happy or successful? And then, well, what do they have to say? So it does take work. It does take learning. You've got to take this on as like an amazing course, but it's a fun one. It's fucking fun when you get down into this stuff. And then as you go along, it generates more, and it can go week to week. You can have a rough week where you get kicked down the spiral and you're not in a creation mode and you're more of a downer mode. The moment you get back into it, wow, it only takes a few days before the universe unravels something that kind of continues on in that direction. So which way do you want to be tilted?
Yeah, I've got a question. A question's popping up in my mind for people listening. What in your life is robbing you of your happiness? And whatever comes up first for that, the answer to that question, I would really consider, how are you going to let it go? What are you going to do to let it go? You might have to take a brave, bold, freaking step. It might be life devastation. That might really truly be the answer to whatever's wrong. If you're in a relationship that's completely robbing you of your happiness and you freaking know it, and every single day your soul is like, please, will you just have the courage to do this? And you're like, nah, I can't because I'm financially stable in this situation. And your soul's like, please. You might have to take a big, bold step. Or it might be something like, yeah, I know I need to stop watching TV every night. That is not bringing me happiness. It's robbing me of all the time that I would spend making my dreams come true, whatever. Whatever popped up, I'm asking you to listen to it. And I really like the advice.
Because whatever it is, you're blaming it. It's outside of you, but it's also something you clearly could change.
Exactly. You have the choice. Sometimes it's scary, or sometimes it's, and I would say also, why are you clinging to it? There's a lot of treasure right there. What is it about that thing that you're clinging to? Why won't you let it go?
Even if it's something that's a self-sabotaging thing a lot of people don't think about, which is the need to prove yourself right about not being able to, or damn it, see, they wouldn't let me, or whatever it is, and you're continually proving that story we talked about right.
Usually they're the two fears that really keep people from taking this leap that they need to, is the fear of not being loved or the fear of not being good enough.
Yep.
Right? So whatever your soul is pulling you to do, one of those fears, some branch off of one of those fears. So which one is it for you? Is it the fear of not being loved or the fear of not being good enough? Like, really take that into account and think, like, I'm letting my whole life be guided by fear. I'm letting the situation in my life, I am running off fear. damn it, I see it now. I have to admit it. I am running off fear here. Okay, how are you going to change it? One thing that if it's something like as simple as like, let's say it's watching TV at night. Sean gave this example. He said he created a barrier. Okay, so when we have like these knee-jerk reactions, we can create actual physical barriers that can give us what he calls the 20-second rule. He's like, if there's 20-second break between a normal reaction time, normally it would be like, I want to watch TV, remote, go. So what he did is he hid his remote like in his bedroom nightstand. So it was super annoying.
So you'd have to like go all the way upstairs to get the thing.
Every single time he wanted to go watch TV, he had to go upstairs to his room, go get the freaking remote out, bring it back to, right? So
I like that. That's a good like kind of self hack to keep yourself from doing a thing you're kind of in an addiction to or something.
Yeah. So if it's something kind of physical like that, that can be a good hack to keep you from doing what you're doing. But somehow to break the pattern. But on a deeper level, I would say there are one of the first steps to really truly being happy is listening to what your soul is asking you to do. Are you willing to listen? Because we all have them. I don't care if you are like a hippy dippy crystal loving person like us, or if like you're a super Christian or you're Buddhist or you don't believe in any of that crap and you're just like, I don't believe in anything spiritual. I know you still have those like, I need to do this. Okay. Like I need to do this.
There's
and I know
something drawing you.
Something pulling you. Yeah. And to me, that's the first step is, are you going to actually listen? Because when you do, that's when magic comes in.
Right, and that's part of the clarity we're talking about. You're getting clear about your desires, your life wants, and again, it could be anything. It'd just be like, I always wanted to go there. It didn't have to be like a life career goal. It can be, but it could be something small. Right. I have a friend who is having the most incredible time increasing her confidence through taking singing lessons, which she's not planning on being like, it's not, she might end up being a rock star, but like, that's not the plan. And so some people would be like, well, that's a waste because if it's not a career that it's like, yeah, but do it anyway because you love it. And in the process, she realized, oh my gosh, she's giving herself a voice. It's awkward to be in front of even a coach, even though they make you feel very comfortable singing coaches. It's awkward to start singing out loud in front of people. It feels judgy and gross and weird. It's the same thing like with anything you do for the first time. And she's like, wow, this is really like giving my confidence a boost and my ability to speak up a boost. So that was just a little passion of hers that she didn't deny because there wasn't like some track that she should be on because it was a realistic career. It was a passion. It lights her up. So whatever lights you up, maybe that's like, I want to go, you know what I mean? I don't care what the thing is. It could be collecting stamps. Literally. Doesn't matter.
And some of us have lost that. I talk to my clients about this all the time because we talk about getting in alignment with your soul's purpose. And one of them called me. She just booked a call. I was like, I didn't even know. I was like, what are we talking about today? What's going on? She's like, I need help. I have no idea what I like. I have no idea. And I'm like, oh, I feel you. Remember we had this conversation on a previous episode. Like my marriage counselor was like, what do you want? I'm like, I don't even know what restaurant I like. I have no idea what I want. I have been so busy just doing what other people want me to do so I can get love that way. Like it's a hack, right? That I don't even know what I want anymore. And it's not a hack. It never leaves you happy or fulfilled. So what I usually do is we go back to childhood. And sometimes people have to dig deep, but it's like
what did you always want to do? Or when you were a kid, what did you,
did you do? What did you do when you were a kid?
Right.
What did you like doing? For me, I liked anything physical. Hey guys, let's play kickball after school. Hey guys, let's go run around in the woods. Hey guys, let's go play basketball. Like I liked physical stuff. And I lost that for a large part of my adult life. It just wasn't important. I lost all the joy. So when people talk, about for me going to the gym is like joy. Yes, it brings me joy. I love it. I can't wait to go again tomorrow. It's honestly the best part of my day. I love it that much. So cool. I've aligned my career with something that I love. So what else did I like? I loved walking around outside. I vividly remember so much of my childhood just by myself walking around in my yard, wandering, picking dandelions and digging holes in the dirt. And I loved it. Okay, cool. It wasn't like, I'm going to be a ballerina. I just like that. And is my current life situation aligned with that? Yes, it is. Right? I'm getting ready to start nature retreats. So what do you love? What do you love? That's a really, really key thing. If you're not doing what you love, how sad is it? You're going to go on your deathbed and you'll be like, yeah, I was a really good mom and sister and employee and I didn't do anything I loved my whole life.
Yep. And it's that goes from Ivan Illich, one of the old Russian novels where it's like such a sad moment. He's like on his deathbed and he says to his wife something like, "What if my entire life has been wrong?"
Yeah.
You do not. I'm getting goosebumps.
Yep.
You do not want to be on your deathbed. So yeah, it is. It's about pursuing the things we love. That'll give us happiness. But also, and some dumb hacks like if you're off kilter. You know what I do? I go right to Instagram puppies. I'm looking up golden doodles, my favorite
Yeah.
breed, and I'm just like, and like, how can you not? You go look at my friend's baby, and I'm just like, So yeah, sometimes you have to force it. Sometimes you have to go. I gotta like make sure this happens now and turn it around.
Right.
And
For me, it's comedy. I love to like I just need to go watch somebody funny for like 3 minutes, and I'm laughing, and my whole energy is different, right? So that's what I call Marie Kondoing your mind. Does it bring you joy? If something brings you joy, like have little snippets of that throughout the day. I love Stick Figure and who else do I love? Hippie Sabotage. Like their music brings me joy. I love their music, so it's like I throw that into the mix of my day to bring a little bit of joy. So I love that.
And on the health note too, like we both know, and we said it earlier, we touched on it, which is, hey, listen, give yourself a break if you're in ill health right now or you're struggling with something. Your neurotransmitters, everything is going to be off, and it's going to be actually hard to access happiness. It's actually a thing when you're hypothyroid. In fact, it's your brain. You literally, and then people would like get on the thyroid hormone, get fixed. They'll go, oh my gosh, does this make you happy? And I'm like, yeah, it does, because you need it for your brain like most people do.
Yep.
So you got to cut yourself a break, but then the ultimate goal is get on that health journey, because without that baseline of health, and we're not saying be like Tara and be at the gym rolling weight. We're not saying but you have to do something for your health if you're there, because you're never going to achieve happiness if the inside's all messed up.
And you don't have to go to the gym, but eating foods
from
nature, putting those in your bodies, that was the gateway to awakening for me. That took me from a place of doubt and living a life that was totally out of alignment with who I was, and guilt and shame and feeling sad and crying myself to sleep at night and all that stuff. Putting natural foods in my body, if you're eating Wendy's, okay? I'm going to shout out. If you're eating Wendy's, if you go to Wendy's on regular, you're way freaking off. Like, you are so far off from the potential of life that you could be living. I'm telling you, because I lived that life. I was on the
And you go make a burger at home with bacon, man. Tara and I would tell you right now, please, even throw some bone marrow. Do whatever you want. Make make a cheese bacon burger at home. We would rather have you do that. It's with quality meat.
I promise you, I never thought this, because I used to be like, a McDouble sounds good. I used to be on that life, guys, and it's like, it sounded so good every day. Now that I've switched, that sounds nasty. Like, you could not pay me to go eat that crap. And instead,
and you really know that too, because you grew up poor, you didn't have high quality food for a long time, and you were that person. So
I was. My whole life, we had ramen.
You know the difference. You know the difference in the
macaroni and cheese. I'm telling you, it changed my whole life, changing the food that I put in my body. And actually, in Dave Asprey's book, Game Changers, he interviews all these experts. Now, granted, these are some of them are in the health field, so it could be a little bit skewed, but the number one thing that they gave credit to for the success in their life, these are like billionaires and people who have achieved incredible things in their lifetime. The number one thing was the food that they ate. That was the number one thing they said contributed to their success. So I am saying, you don't have to go to the gym. If you want to do that and you can get that in, that's cool. It definitely has a lot of empowering mindsets that come from it and all of that. And you get energy and you get dopamine and lots of good things. But the first thing is changing the food that you eat. If you are unhappy and you are on that Wendy's, Taco Bell, McDonald's life, you got to get off that first. And it's like, you're not going to die. You're still going to eat food. Don't cut calories. Don't go on some crazy thing. Just eat at home. Just make good, real food at home. Self-experiment. Buy some freaking seasonings. We love Redmond Real Salt. Their seasonings are freaking bomb. I'm going to give them a shout out because I love them.
Every day.
I put that on everything. And I don't want fast food. I'm like, that stuff's nasty.
Just changing your salt. Okay, get rid of the Morton's bullshit salt and just getting a good salt. Just getting rid of the canola oil and replacing with avocado or olive or coconut.
Right.
Anything. These are small changes, but they are affecting your brain. These are toxic things. And so, hey man, if you clean up and look, it doesn't mean I still eat ribs and burgers and all the good stuff. It's just clean it up. So yeah, back on that note, you don't have to exercise, but you cannot expect, or you're limiting your happiness potential. And it's not to say that you can't be that fast food person and be super happy, but I would absolutely bet money that if they also change their diet, even if they didn't lose any weight, and they would absolutely then like it would be like tenfold expansion for that person. It would
Yep.
increase it. And by the way, that happened for you. It happened for me. It wasn't until like I got my health together and met Mark and whatever, and my life exploded. You know, everything in my life helped. Everything got cleaned out. I wasn't inflamed anymore. I was pre-diabetic. These things affect your mood. When you're inflamed and you feel it and you have pre-diabetes, by the way, that sucks. It totally sucks. It totally affects your brain and how you think. I had heavy metals. That totally affected my brain. I didn't even realize how much until I had already cleaned up some of it. And I thought, I feel more zen. I feel more different. I feel less stressed in my brain. I could feel it. So these things do matter. Get checked out. Go down this road. You can start with food, then maybe go to a functional medicine doctor. But it is key. And listen, the Prozacs of the world and all of those things, they are patchworks. They often don't work after 3 months if there's an underlying condition. And it's not to say that you shouldn't be on them. But there are a million people that through food have been able to wean off of them over time or cut them out completely or get down to a very low dose of something. This is something you and I see. Like we see this all the time. So there's a lot of mental health professionals that go into our direction of the paradigm Tara and I push, which is, you know, lower carb, moderate protein, high fat kind of paradigm, an ancestral kind of model. And those people, I mean, man, just... yeah, it's a life changer. Obviously, we could talk all day about health, but and
I would say too, real quick, if this is resonating with you, don't focus. I feel like people focus so much on the deprivation and misery side of getting healthy. That's why people don't want to do it because they look at it as
it's not deprivation.
Horrible thing that starts on Mondays. This horrible thing. Don't do that. You're not going to, you know, you're probably not going to be off of McDonald's and Kraft macaroni and cheese and ramen noodles immediately if that's really, I just challenge you to add nutrition in, okay? You can still keep all those things.
That's right.
But just add nutrition in, add a walk in, add sunlight in, add. How can I add more nutrition to this McDonald's burger? Can I throw some extra lettuce and tomatoes and all of those things on it and let's baby step your way into it? So just think of a positive mindset of like, what can I like? Ooh, I'm making a protein shake. Could I throw greens in here? Could I, you know, whatever it is for you, like maybe you're going to have your value meal with a protein shake and that's a win for you. Just keep going, keep thinking positive and adding it in and you'll get there. That was such a change for me because I was so tired of feeling deprived and miserable and like that health was equated with suckiness to me. And that's such a lie.
No. It's such a lie because if you looked at all the stuff Tara and I eat, it's not at all, it's exactly opposite of what I thought would get you to lose the weight, which is why that was a mindfuck for me when I learned about all this, because I was like, I thought it had to be suffer, sacrifice, and pain, and it really doesn't. I used to be afraid of like, I can't eat too much. No, it just had to eliminate some bad things and have more good things. And it's okay to overeat those things. It's not about restricting calories. Like I know you are definitely not about a restrictive mindset. It's the worst thing that can happen. But like you said, even if you're going to eat that damn Big Mac, then make a deal with yourself where you're going to have one zucchini then that day. Or
just add something in, add nutrition in it, and you'll get there, you know. So, but it is, it's the, what did you say? Limiting your happiness potential. Ooh, that's a powerful statement. That's so true. We're limiting our happiness potential when we don't take care of our bodies. That's why it's so important. Like, I'm definitely spiritual. I understand we are not our bodies, but we are heavily wired into these suckers. And the chemicals in them do affect how we show up every day. So when we don't take care of them, we are limiting our happiness potential. So very well said.
Let's talk about the one point that Rob Mack brought up, which might seem obvious to people, but you know, we can kind of go out on this note a little bit in wrapping up, which is if there's two people in a relationship, friendship, business, romantic, the happier person can bring the less happier person up, but the less happier person always brings the other person down. Like you're never going to, you know what I mean? So it's important to think about who we're hanging out with as when we're going down this happiness route. You know, like I talk about ditching downers, right? Cleaning all that other stuff in my book. Got to get rid of these people or limit our contact with them and up level different vibrational beings into our life, right? Different friends, different vibes. I want to be with people that are as happy or happier than me because of what I know about what Rob said. It's so true. We've all been there. You're always trying to bring that person up. They're always the one that goes down and you're always and that is a lot of work and that is going to affect your happiness. It depends. I mean, if you're both really happy and one's just a little bit more than the other, okay, whatever. It's kind of even, right? But if you've got kind of a downer or a negative Nancy, like a negatively tinged person or a friend in your life, man. So if you're on this train, you got to clean out, get a coach if that's the only positive unbiased person you can have in your life, or seek out new tribes. We need to or put more emphasis into those friends that are happy, that make you feel good. Because as you're on this road too, sometimes especially if you're a rescuer, if you have this in you, which a lot of alphas do, you are gonna tend to try to like pick up projects along the way of people who are like, come on here, I can show you how to be happy because I'm happy. And it's a downer. That whole thing ends up being kind of a downer scenario, and it brings you down. And often doesn't bring that person up. Could we talk about that? Like, you could try all you want.
Yep. Guilty. Because it comes to, I'm like, guilty. I've done that so much in my life. And I think what happens is usually people are unhappy because they aren't taking full accountability for their happiness. So even though they might like the feeling of being around you because it feels really good, if they aren't learning that it comes from within them, you will never do anything for them except create a dependency on you.
That's the other part of it. I'm glad you brought that up. That's the other part he talked about. And I find that to be, it's really interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had like such a funny conversation with Rob because I told him about my little sunshine soul experience that I had from my intuition came in, and it was just like telling me to look for, it was like, you're a sunshine soul, look for other sunshine souls. And I really thought about that. I kind of did an inventory of people I've dated and friends and everything, and I was like, it was a helpful practice for me. So as cheesy as that sounds, and it's weird to even talk about that to a guy, I felt so weird being like, sunshine souls. But like, think about that. Think of who in your life you consider a sunshine soul, you know? And I'm like, I almost to the point now, I'm like, I don't care what kind of like healing you need to do or what you got. If you're a sunshine soul and you love people and you're good and you bring out that like the best in people around you, like I freaking love you. I love you for that, you know? And so I think identifying those sunshine souls for me has been really good. The other thing is self-accountability here too, because even though I have an amazing tribe full of health conscious, beautiful, law of attraction, like amazing people, sometimes every once in a while we'll slip into like old behaviors and it will get a little bit negative. And so it's crazy how easy it is, because negative talk is low-lying fruit. It's easy to talk about negative stuff, right? And so I'm very mindful when that starts to happen to not make that become a practice, because I perceive it as ruining the relationship, ruining the friendship. It's now this has turned into this weird negative toxic thing. So the next time that urge comes up to be like something that's kind of low vibe, I'm like, no, we're not doing that. Like, I'm not going to do that to her. I'm not going to bring that kind of energy into her life right now. So I think also self-accountability for us to make sure that we are keeping things high vibe.
Oh yeah, right. And you know, that's like that dumb example in the book where it's like, in my book, which is about the downer effect with downers, which is like, are you the first person to call and be like, did you hear the plane crash today? Or like, what? Like, just think about like, what are you saying? What about your going to further you spiritually and advance the other person or not? And sometimes things are necessary. There's factual information that needs to be interchanged that's not happy or whatever. But you know, I've even caught myself a couple of times with some sensational thing, and I'll want to be like, oh, did you? And then I'll be like, am I bringing that into that person's day? Like, someone did that to me recently when they brought it up, and I actually asked them, I said, really? Did you just tell me about your bank story or whatever? Like,
well, exactly. I'll tell you, told me something that was happening publicly the other day, and I really appreciated it because your intention was actually very high vibe. It was like, hey, just kind of sharing this because these kind of things can happen in our industry. And I'm like, cool. Thank you so much for bringing that to my attention, because it was a very high vibe.
Yeah, it wasn't gossip. So, it was for the purposes of positive.
It was a lesson. Yeah. Right. Exactly. And I super appreciated that. And that left me feeling like, oh, like, thank you for telling me that, because you cared enough to tell me something like that. Not just like, and can you believe blah, blah, blah. Like, what's the intention behind it? You know what I mean? And I think that's always the key to everything. What's the intention behind it?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm wondering what other kind of wrap-ups on this. And we mentioned some resources. I'll try to put them in the show notes as well, some of these books and people we've mentioned. I'll share a little hack. And by the way, both Tara and I have been absolutely fucking miserable in our lives. So I just want to share that too. I have been like clinically depressed in high school, where I had to like be on antidepressants I got kicked out of high school. I had to be on antidepressants for a whole summer, which I don't think I really needed. But what it was is I developed like a sleeping disorder. I was like sleeping all the time because I was so depressed, versus the opposite, which is like insomnia for a lot of depressing people. I just wanted to sleep all the time. I didn't want to live in reality, because it was just much better for me to be asleep. Can't even believe how depressed I once was back then. I finally got out of it. There's been a couple of times, right? I got hit with a permanent disability. I got hit with hypothyroidism. We've been there. You as well, with your story,
Right.
from childhood to now. We've both been through these things, and we could tell you that we manufactured this ourselves. We did the work. That we weren't always this way. I mean, we might have had a baseline of that, I'm sure, but we weren't always as happy as we are now. It did take effort, and I'm so glad I learned the things we talked about today, because my life is so much fucking better. Oh my God. My life is so much better than it was like 15, 20 years ago. Like, it is just so much better. So the sooner you get to this work, it's never too late, but the sooner you get to it, the sooner the happiness comes in, and then you get more things to be happy about, because when you're happy, you're grateful and you're excited, and that just begets more of that through the law of attraction, and you're going to be more successful.
Yeah. And are you putting in the work every day? Are you doing, because it's one thing. I'm so glad you guys are listening to our podcast, and I hope you guys are watching us on YouTube. Like, I'm so grateful for that. But what are you doing after this? Like, what got inspired by this? What happened in you that you're actually going to do some work with after? Because I think that can be a trap a little bit, is like theory, awareness. But where's the practicality? Where's the action that gets followed through? So it's like, oh, I remember that one part where Tara said like that thing, and I realized I'm in a toxic freaking relationship and I need to get out of it. What are you going to do about that? You know?
Yeah.
Where's the action? And, for me, just even these little like written things that I do every morning that's the action. That's me putting in action daily. And I gave my clients the business about this morning. I was like, if you're not doing your morning routine, you need to get on that now. Because if you're not progressing forward, you're going backwards. You have felt that in your life, that when you stop doing the basics and you stop putting the work in, it just starts to go, Wah. It's like all this exciting exhilaration when you're doing all your personal work, and then you stop and it's like flatline. And then you start putting in the work and it goes back up, and it's all exciting and ups and downs and adventure and magic. You stop putting in the work, flatline. So
yeah, even if you start off with every morning writing 3 things you're grateful about. I don't care if it's your eyes, your nose, your sense of your intelligence. It doesn't matter. Your parents, you're grateful for a dog. Just any attention, even if all you can muster up is 3 to 5 things every morning, that's a start. And then you move to a 10-minute meditation, or you move to writing a longer list, or once a month, maybe you do a big, like, let me reevaluate this month and see what do I want to happen next month, and write another intention list. But to start, everybody, and one of the things that does help, and I know I mention him a lot because I love his voice, but Justin Perry on YouTube has like all of these free affirmations. He has like morning gratitude affirmations. You just play it. It's on a loop for like an hour. You can just walk around, get your coffee, and he's sitting there saying the things. You don't even have to almost stretch to think what you're grateful for, because it's just going to come in. So maybe you start there with just like a gratitude affirmation, free YouTube, audio, and that kind of kicks you into it. And maybe it's only 3 minutes. But yeah, it's got to start somewhere. And what a great way to start your day too.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. And I love that. I used to hear write down gratitude and think, I was like, I'm not going to do that. I used to think like, that's okay. Thank you for the cliche advice. No.
It imprints the subconscious. It's real stuff.
It's real stuff. Because when you write, it slows your brain down. Our brains are efficient. They don't want to do hard stuff. They want to live a long time. So that seems hard. So we don't want to do it. Right? We want to do the easy stuff like receive, right? But actually transmitting information is a little bit more difficult. So when we write it down, we slow our brains down enough to actually think it through. And then I would advise truly, and this comes from Tony Child, who is my mindset coach, is to write, what do you feel as you think about each one of those emotions? I mean, one of those things that you're thankful for, because it helps you identify your emotions. And I can't even tell you how many times I'm writing down adjectives that aren't feelings. I'm like, that's not a feeling. Okay. Hold on, excited. Okay, hopeful. Okay, right? And so now it's a practice. Not only are you getting in that mindset of gratitude and abundance, because once you realize you have it all, the universe starts giving you more and more and more, because you understand you already have it all. So of course, why can't you have it all, right? Because you already do. So when you write those feelings and you slow your brain down and write it down, it changes everything. Changes everything. It's magic stuff. It's not some fluffy, like, this would be a good thing to do with your life. It's actually true, tried and true practice of successful people all throughout the dawn of time.
And you mentioned that study. You mentioned that study out of Harvard or whatever before on another podcast, where they took all of the people who graduated from Harvard with an MBA or whatever, right? Yeah. And the ones that wrote their goals and their shit down were like astronomically more successful than the other fellow Harvard graduates who didn't.
Oh, and Sean Acorn in his book said that they did a study on nuns from the early 1900s. They journal every day. And so they actually looked at their journals, and the ones who had positive entries lived on average 10 years longer than the ones who always had negative entries.
Well, you know what I'm laughing about? I'm laughing about the idea of a nun just bitching all day long in a book. Like, that's just funny to me. It's like, you shouldn't probably be, like, maybe you're not getting the Christ-like or whatever.
It's very humanizing, right? It's like, okay,
very humanizing. Oh my gosh. Well, hey everyone, listen. So we're going to be doing some exciting stuff. We haven't launched it yet. We will say on the next podcast, but we are going to be doing and offering a really cool virtual hangout with Tara and I, where we'll be like max 20 people on Zoom for a couple hours on a Saturday. We're going to pick a date in the future. So we'll do Kick-Ass Podcast Live, and we come and join us. Safe space, fun, get to know each other, create a community. Ask us anything you want about anything. A time to share, time to meet some like-minded people. And so we're really excited about coming up with this. And so stay tuned. We'll put out all the information on that. And of course, if you're listening to this on any platform that's just audio, we also do have video episodes. You can go to our YouTube channel as well. And kickasslifepodcast.com is the website for all of the listening options. And there's a little tiny icon that will take you to YouTube, but it's not as obvious there. So
yeah, thanks so much, guys. I hope you guys will join us for those Kick-Ass Life podcasts live. So, I mean, Elle and I have quite a bit of knowledge here. So if you want access to some of that and to just kind of find a tribe of people who think like you, who are growth mindset and want the most out of life, well, that's where you can find it. So I hope you guys join us for that. We'll get you guys details soon.
Awesome.
Thanks, Elle.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Talk to you next week.